Breaking news. The Wuhan supervirus is airborne. Breaking news. The Wuhan supervirus is airborne, and it spreads while you breathe. That is the new official statement, according to the CDC, according to CNN, according to the mayor of Los Angeles, right now instructing you how to wear a mask. Forever. This is the beginning of forever. Ladies and gentlemen, many people wonder, how long will this last? Forever. It will be forever like this, we're sorry to say. And why is it going to be like this forever, ladies and gentlemen? Because they let this virus in. That's why it's going to be forever. And we've been talking about this for months, and I told you so just doesn't quite cut it. Does it, ladies and gentlemen? 6.6 million, they say, out of work now. Soon America will look like this, a giant refugee camp. It's going to be worse than the Depression. We've got all sorts of news to cover. The video guy is on location, bitches. The video guy is on location. We're hacking the Matrix. This is the Grand Central Park Field Hospital. They're trucking in the first patients without insurance, undoubtedly, into a tent in the middle of the fucking park. How cold does it get at night? They say 80% of the people on ventilators die. And they're like, we need more ventilators. Well, what the fuck's the point? They're all gonna die. If you want to stop the madness, I hope the Cuomos are watching, taking notes. If you want to stop the madness, you have to put the chloroquine in the water, like the fluoride. If they can fluoridate your teeth, if they can send the cure out through the water pipes, why don't they do this here? Would that be too fucking brilliant? Would that be too fucking brilliant right now, ladies and gentlemen? You don't think they thought of that? Oh no, you know what they were busy doing? Making sure you don't have enough masks. They were telling everybody, oh, you don't need a mask. Just wash your hands. I mean, they were laughing at you the whole way, the whole time, ladies and gentlemen. So bad. They're like, wash your hands. It's fucking airborne. You know, if you look at most respiratory diseases, the airborne ones, they all attack the lungs. All the respiratory diseases that are caused by a virus, they're airborne. They're airborne, bitches. This would have been the very first virus that attacks the respiratory system that wasn't airborne. Everybody knew that from the beginning. Why do you think they were wearing masks in China? Because it's fucking airborne. And, you know, this is what should frustrate people more than anything. I mean, it was so obvious this was coming. We were playing the videos for months. And now they're like, oh, well, yeah, but, you know, everybody was telling us that this was just like the flu. Who are these people? How could anyone be this stupid? There's no way that they can plead ignorance here, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they're going to try and do now. Oh, we didn't know. We thought it was the flu. No shit. Everybody had been warning them. The CIA, the Pentagon. They even ran a huge drill, Crimson Contagion, all year long that ended in October. And it told them, oh, you know, we're so not prepared. This is exactly what you don't want to happen, is some kind of pandemic influenza, because if it does, you're so fucked. Everybody was like on the same page except the people at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, at the tip of a pentagram. Have you ever seen the streets of Washington, D.C.? It's not 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, ladies and gentlemen. It's 666 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Coronavirus.
This is their new hoax.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China.
One day it's like a miracle, it will disappear.
When you have 15 people, and within a couple of days it's going to be down to close to zero, We really think we've done a great job in keeping it down to a minimum.
I like this stuff. I really get it. People are surprised that I understand it.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
Ah. So that was just a quick refresher. How did we get here? How did we get to 220,000 cases in America? 1 million worldwide. 1 in 5 cases is now in America. And while we only have half as many as Europe, we're on a graph that's much worse than Europe. We're going out there. I mean, we've gone so vertical. The whole thing's going to Mars before you know it. Crimson Contagion, 2019, October 2019. Event 201, October 2019. The Wuhan Military Games, October 2019. The first infections in Wuhan, October 2019.
Some discussion about China and what they knew and when they knew it, and I've been very critical. We need to know immediately. The world is entitled to know. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. We're in a live exercise here to get this right.
So they've got all these exercises going on, and then they use the terminology live exercise. Is this real world or an exercise, ladies and gentlemen? The video guy.
When I got down to the plane is 10 miles out, the young man also said to the vice president, "Do the orders still stand?" And the vice president turned and whipped his neck around and said, "Of course the orders still stand. Have you heard anything to the contrary?"
Are you starting to get the drift here, ladies and gentlemen? This is another 9/11. They let these planes in on purpose. Everybody was warning them, just like on 9/11. The week of 9/11, the CIA drops a brief, bin Laden may strike New York with planes. And they're like, oh shit. Let's just pretend we didn't get that for a whole week, and then we'll act surprised, and then we'll be wartime presidents. We'll suspend rights. It'll be tyranny. It'll be fucking beautiful. Tyranny loves to oppress. Do you feel oppressed out there? Do you feel free right now? Think about it long and hard. Okay, write down the question. Do I feel oppressed right now, or do I feel free? If you feel oppressed, that's a result of tyranny. If you feel free, then that's the result of an American. So you tell me what's going on at the White House right now. You tell me what's going on in New York City right now. You tell me what's going on in America right now. Do you feel free, or do you feel oppressed? Do you feel like this might be another 9/11, or do you think this thing is legit? I mean, they've been dragging their feet the whole way, using the CDC and other means to, retard the testing process to absolutely destroy any chances of mitigating this outbreak. Instead, they did everything they could to throw fuel on the fire, look the other way. And then when it became like a national catastrophe, when it became like a Fukushima in America, then finally they were like, oh, Houston, we have a problem. We're going to lock everyone down. We're going to turn them into inmates. We're going to send everybody out in the streets. Do you think these people, that big club that you're not in, do you think these people are going to suffer right now? Or do you think they're on their yacht somewhere watching you freak out at Costco? They're all laughing at you. They've been laughing at you. They even made cartoons like this shit was going to happen. They've been planning this for years. And, the sheeple are just starting to wake up, and it's quite a frightful thing to see. Oh, how did we get here? Where's the video guy at? We've got a lot of things to cover, to say the least. And, of course, how did this story begin? January 22nd, the night of January 22nd to the 23rd in Wuhan, they locked the city down. All the roads, all the airplanes, all the trains, everything locked down. First time anybody's ever seen that when it comes to the flu. And immediately upon seeing the videos, like these body bags everywhere, people being buried alive in their buildings, they were welding the doors shut. You saw blockades everywhere, mass roundups, liquidation. I mean, some serious shit. You saw the videos, and you didn't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out, oh, well, this wasn't the flu. This thing escaped the lab. Whatever this is a bioweapon. And all of a sudden, the dominoes started dropping, one after another. Well, if this is a bioweapon, this was engineered. This was designed to be like a doomsday virus. It's like when somebody designs a plane. Do they design a plane so that it falls apart upon takeoff? Oh, no. Oh, no, bitches. You know, when they design a plane, they want to make sure it lands. And when they design a virus like this, they want to make sure it infects everyone in the country, in the target country, before anyone knows what the fuck happened. Number one. Number two, that means, like, you know, masks won't work. There'll never be a vaccine. And whatever you think might work is really going to be short term and not long term. We're finding out this is not only airborne, it's airborne AIDS, it's airborne Ebola, it's the forever flu. And chances are it's going to kill, you know, most people out there eventually. It's like with AIDS, you know, people don't die from AIDS, they die from pneumonia. Just like this virus. Airborne AIDS. It attacks the immune system, it attacks the blood cells, the heart, the brain. This is a wicked virus. And they're just starting to catch on. They're just starting to tell people, oh, it's airborne. Oh, we've got, you know, the videos, we've got the news reports, as well as the latest on what's going on out there. What is going on out there, ladies and gentlemen? It looks like complete terror, especially in New York City, ladies and gentlemen. And, you know, you have to wonder, how did we get there? You know, New York State has got their own intelligence department. They've got their own CIA. They got people like all around the world collecting surveillance. You gonna tell me these people in New York didn't see this virus from China coming? That they didn't have the time to order masks, order ventilators, to you know, slow things down in the city, to avoid super spreader events, to examine what this virus was really about? Of course they had the time. They all had the time. Right now, it's just like a big ping pong match, you know, on television. It's Cuomo 1 hour, it's Trump the next hour. And people are like, ooh, Cuomo would make a nice president. Well, where was Cuomo 2 or 3 months ago, ladies and gentlemen? If he wasn't running around in his pink tutu. I'm not sure how many people watched the news briefing today. It was cute. You know, they were trying to, you know, make people smile and laugh, bring a little levity to a very dire situation. You know what I mean? And my, how their laughter will turn to sorrow. Because they could have stopped this virus in their city, in their state, had they done their jobs. Just like every city, like every state. It's not just Trump's fault. It's everybody's fault for not doing something about this problem. And it's just like every other problem the New World Order rolls out at you. The death towers and the like. The fluoride, the vaccines. Everybody's got an autistic kid now. It wasn't like that in the 90s. In 20 years, they've managed to fuck everybody up. And you want to know how it happened? Because people just sat on their fat asses and did nothing other than like and share. And you're going to say, well, what could we do? What could we do? Ladies and gentlemen, we were already prisoners, trapped in a system, in a matrix. And then came a virus, ladies and gentlemen. It's just one soldier in the army. And it's just totally destroyed this beast system, and it's just getting started. And if they want to know how to make this better, they better start looking in the Bible, in the book of Daniel, in the book of Isaiah. Every time an empire turns into Babylon, Here we go. Watching the Cuomo briefings is almost like watching Nebuchadnezzar out there knowing what's coming and trying to stay afloat. Ladies and gentlemen, they know what needs to be done. They need to renounce evil if they want to survive. They'll never get there, but we thought we'd mention it. It's never too late. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the overall message in the Bible. It's never too late until your time is done. And every day is a new opportunity to get it right. Every day is like a resurrection. Every day is a new opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, before it's too late, before the mass graves begin to appear everywhere. Let's get into the news. You guys ready for the news? I know you are. So New York now says people with heart attacks that cannot be resuscitated on the street, on the pavement, shall be left to die. New death order. A lot of heart attacks are going to be COVID. We know that. 1 in 5. Cytokine storm, ladies and gentlemen. Experts warn. Hold on. Why is there a crimson contagion there? Ladies and gentlemen, what did the video guy do? Obviously, on vacation. Experts warn as many as 1 in 3 test results may be incorrectly negative. So there's a lot of people out there that think they're negative when they're positive. And that's a bitch. Because these people will all be super spreaders thinking that, they're A-okay. You know what I mean? And that's what makes this weapon so covert, so stealthy. Perfect storm. Talk about perfect storms. U.S. facing hunger crisis as demand for food banks soars. And, it is a perfect storm when you think about it. Right around the New Year's season when everybody's traveling. New Year's in China, Christmas in America. Everybody's traveling, everybody's going places. And then there's the election, and then there's the Super Bowl, and then there's, all of the other things. And so it was really the perfect time, and it could hide behind the flu. Imagine when we get a full flu season full of it. People will be doubly infected with the flu and the COVID. Now, we got to listen to this guy. He's got that San Francisco lisp. Hold on. Let's see if we can reactivate.
We're going to learn more. We're going to adjust. And we've learned that there's a fair amount of asymptomatic spread. And so we've asked the CDC to take another look at...
Wow.
The CDC, the World Health Organization, and my office recommended against the general public wearing masks based on the best available science at the time.
At the time, the best available science at the time. Again, every respiratory disease caused by a virus is airborne. You'd have to struggle to find one that isn't airborne. Even the measles and chickenpox are airborne. And you're going to tell me that this thing ain't airborne? You don't need a mask? They've been lying to people since the beginning to make sure that everybody would get infected. No biologist, no reputable, doctor out there would exclude the possibility of this thing being airborne, especially looking at the footage from China when they all got masks and goggles. What do you think they think? They think it's airborne. That's why they're wearing masks. And so you just cannot imagine the failure of logic here, especially not at the very top of the government. You just can't imagine this being the case when you've got, CIA briefs saying, this thing is going to kill us all. And what do? They just sit there with their thumb up their ass. They don't order masks. They don't order anything. Instead, they're preparing for the lockdown. They're scheming to basically kill you. And they're thinking of ways, the best ways that they can get away with it. Because, this is like a battle right now. We're trying to survive. They're trying to kill everybody. And, the battlefield is changing. Public perception is changing. They probably weren't expecting that, that the situation would evolve as quickly as it did in terms of questioning the official narrative. But right away, this thing didn't look like some kind of flu. It looked like a bioweapon that had escaped the lab, like a major Fukushima meltdown. And at the very least, you'd think circuit breakers would go off and people would just kind of like, stop and think about what's going on here. We're getting numerous reports, from other countries where people are starting to realize how badly they've been fucked by their governments as well. And it seems like the entire NATO New World Order structure was in on this. All of the health ministers were basically laughing at the people. Oh, you don't need a mask. You don't need to worry about this. Continue on with your daily life. Just wash your hands. And everybody got infected. Why do you think this guy's wearing a mask? And he's got a face shield too. Why do you think that is? Now he's got a mask. Why do you think that is? For the longest time, they were telling people, oh, you don't need a mask. But we're finding out that, they knew there were already like internal emails between ministers and presidents, at the end of January, that this thing was going ballistic. And it was going to be the next disease X. And they did absolutely nothing to prepare. Instead, they misled the public intentionally, and then they sold their stocks. Seems like there's going to be a massive genocide on all the freeloaders on Medicare, Medicaid. All the people in nursing homes are going to get liquidated. And we're hearing about the genocide there. LA mayor says you need a mask full time in public places. And of course, that kind of brings us back to this video, wherever it went, to be quite honest with you. But it looked like a video of some kind of forced testing, but this could have been some kind of lockdown video, where the guy's getting some kind of forced anal exam. That's what the deep state likes to do. They like the anal exam. No Astroglide. And you see these big burly fuckers here? I mean, they're looking to penetrate. See that guy? He's looking to penetrate bad. And these are the type of goon squads that you'll see, show up. Full-blown libtards. They look official. And you have to wonder what this guy's got on his chest here. It looks like a big fucking camera. Look at that. It looks like a robot, from some kind of Stephen King movie coming to rape you. So now this is being reported by InfoWars as a forced medical exam. But, this might be in a prison. Well, we have to verify the full context of this. Yeah. But this looks pretty fucking bad. The guy's got the camera for the anal rectum exam. He's gonna share it with his buddies. And a guy like that, man, I mean, you can just imagine the worst, right? Like the movie Hostel. That's what this scene looks like. And the sound is horrific. So we got Scroogle out there that brought this to our attention. Appreciate that. It's horrifying. I think, we'll see more and more things like that and worse. Because this isn't some kind of accident. This isn't some kind of freak of nature. This is according to plan. And, this is a suicide cult. They want to kill everyone out there, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're starting to get the news, many hours ago now. Finally, the government is telling people the troubling and dangerous truth about this virus. Simply breathing will spread it. You don't have to be coughing or sneezing. And, these little virus particles that are shaped like pollen will float in the air for hours. And somebody could have just walked down the hallway, breathed a little bit, and those particles will linger pretty much all fucking day. And the next dude that walks down the hallway, boom, bitches. And you'd have to imagine, like, you know, if enough people in a city are infected, you know, that stuff is going to start blowing in the wind, blowing to the next town over, quite literally. Like pollution. I mean, these virus particles can last days, last for days. I'm sure a lot of people would want to argue that, but in theory, that's certainly possible. What is the video guy doing, ladies and gentlemen? Ooh, look at all that. Juicy, juicy. And you can't imagine how big the burn pits are going to be. You know, what does 1 million people look like in a burn pit? You know what I mean? 10,000 would already be pretty nice. Look at that. 10,000 libtards. You know what I mean? From San Francisco. Talk about barbecue, bitches. I wonder if we could get close, you know, like fireman. Like a fireman festival. How many of you are freaking out there? Are you really? Yeah. Let's see. We've got other videos, I'm sure, to play while we go through the news. We're broadcasting live on ScrewTube. Hacking the Matrix. How's everybody doing out there? Screw Google. You know what I mean? Scroogle. Yeah. Experts tell White House coronavirus can spread through talking or even just breathing. So this is official. Experts tell White House coronavirus can spread through talking or even just breathing. And you know all these people at the White House are infected. So you have to wonder what meds are they on. And all the VIPs, what meds are they on? And, you know, all the members of Congress, what meds are they on? You know, it's kind of, I remember the press conference where Trump was like, chloroquine, trust me, that shit's the bomb, right? Why was he saying that? Because he was on it, ladies and gentlemen, with the Zithromax, and it's got to be done early. If the lung damage has occurred, then it's too late. You know, these drugs aren't going to help. It's got to be like while the symptoms are still mild. So this stuff should be available over the counter to everyone right now. I mean, they should be putting it in the water. If your teeth are that important to dump fluoride, which is a poison, into the water, you'd think they could just, you know, distribute this through the water supply and tell everyone to drink a glass of tap water. How many of you would drink that? Even if the cure was in it, would you try it out? You know what I mean? But they need to make this stuff OTC, stop with the bottlenecks. You know, the tests don't work. There's no telling if it's like a lottery if you go into the hospital and you get the meds because their tests don't work. So are you feeling lucky today? Why don't you go to the hospital and get reinfected? You know what I mean? Or go through one of the drive-through clinics and they're just going to torture you with their, you know, medieval test. Totally medieval. You know, I'm sure there's better ways. And then they're going to tell you, oh, you know, you're negative. You don't need the meds. You don't need the cure. That's only for the president, the vice president, the secretaries, and, you know, the staff. But you don't get that shit unless you work for CNN or Zuckerberg. Then you get that shit. Otherwise, you don't get that shit. So they need to quit hoarding the drugs, right? These fucking junkies over there in DC. They need to quit hoarding the drugs and distribute it to everyone. OTC style, over the counter. And, you know, a lot of people aren't going to go in because they don't want to get, you know, put on their list. So given that they let this shit in, they need to make the cure available and give everyone the right to try. If you don't want to try it out, nobody's forcing you to try it out. But right now we're getting more and more, you know, reports that it's working rather well. Even the governor of Michigan has done a full U-turn according to the mainstream news. And once like prohibited the use of hydroxychloroquine and now has fully endorsed it. So obviously the governor of Michigan has seen something that has changed her mind. Changed her mind. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why we keep, you know, running these pharmacia adverts here. And look, I think it's worth the try. I think everybody's been infected. It's important that everybody gets treated at the same time in your household. Otherwise, you're just going to reinfect yourselves. And chances are you're going to have to continue on with like real strict germaphobe type of politics to avoid getting reinfected as well. because this is like airborne AIDS. And even if you get, it's just like airborne chlamydia or something, the airborne clap, bitches. And, it's like all of a sudden, you take the antibiotics and then you walk into a room and, the bitch gives it to you again. It's like, what do? You got to go back on the meds, and then you got to go back on the meds, and you got to go back on the meds. And so everybody's got to basically burn through this at the same time, or we're always going to reinfect each other. But they're never going to figure that one out. That's too fucking obvious, right? They're going to be looking at something completely ridiculous, like, probably like lung transplants or some shit like that, knowing these people. Look at this, endless train of dead bodies. That's what they want for America. That's the kind of traitors we're dealing with. 1776 2.0 is long overdue. Why do you think the Bill of Rights is set up the way it is, ladies and gentlemen? You have the right to free speech. You have the right to protest your government. You have the right to bear arms. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. You have the right to a jury trial. You have the right to not be cruelly punished by your government. Why? Because the government is not your friend. Everybody knows that. There's nothing, wrong with, pointing out the obvious here. These people are not your friends. They were not meant to be your friends. They're meant to do their jobs. And if they're not doing their jobs, then you're supposed to be able to boot them out, except they've taken over the whole fucking system. The corporations, the television, the politicians, they control perception, and politics and policy. They control it all, and you're just out there getting gassed like a nice little sheeple, hoping that you'll survive. And these people are rolling out death towers like you wouldn't believe. But this is, verified, airborne, bitches. Check this out. We got a news brief here.
You're stealing, right to jail. You're playing music too loud, right to jail, right away. You're driving too fast, jail. Slow, jail. You're charging too high prices for sweaters, glasses. You right to jail. You undercook fish, believe it or not, jail. You overcook chicken, also jail. Undercook, overcook. You make an appointment with the dentist and you don't show up, believe it or not, jail, right away. You're stealing, right to jail.
So that's basically the new politics these days from our wartime presidents and emergency managers. They love to sound, super important. They've all placed the word honorable in front of their names, right? And it just couldn't get more criminal out there. It's just unbelievable. OAN has been barred from White House briefings, they say, because the White House, whatever commission, has said that this reporter violated their rules. And, she was asking the softball questions like, oh, Mr. President, as soon as you find the cure, the economy will come roaring back. And Mr. President's like, oh, I love that girl. I love these questions. Everybody should watch OAN. It's the only channel that still likes me. Oh, yes, the economy. We had the world's best economy until this happened. And now, we're just doing everything we can. Does that sound familiar? That's like, what they're saying. What else can they say, really? And look, you want them to succeed, right? You want them to find the cure to save us from their virus. They're sitting on the cure right now, these bitches, and they won't share it. 6-week-old infant murdered by Trump. There we go. That's what negligence is. Negligent homicide. How many counts of negligent homicide do we have in America right now? Well, it must be around 5,000 counts and counting. Not to mention they're robbing the treasury as we speak. How successful has the USA been in fighting COVID-19? Look how we've been able to flatten the curve. That's the USA, right? Number one. You tired of winning it? And the rest of the pack. So, based on our trajectory here, we're going to be landing on the fucking Death Star before you know it. So, watch out. Trump ain't fucking around. One Texas doctor who wore a mask in the hallway after treating a man in respiratory distress was suspended and got this text from his boss. You're wearing it down a public hall. There's no more Wuhan virus in the halls than at Walmart. Maybe less. So that's the kind of idiocracy we're dealing with. Here's a very nice bit of information. A postcode map, a zip code map available on Google Maps somewhere. I think we posted a link. Shows just how many people are infected. And in some zip codes around New York, it's like 80%. All this deep purple is 80%. 8 out of 10 people tested are infected. Manhattan, a little bit less, they say. But, we're obviously seeing the difference in, we see a difference in targeting. So we should be thinking about cofactors when it comes to this virus, what might accelerate the disease. And, it's probably the death towers for one, as well as a bunch of other things like air pollution. But those are the biggest factors that we see. EMF pollution and air pollution are probably some of the biggest contributing factors to, the progression, the pathogenesis of this disease. COVID-19 hospital in Italy has had 0 staff infected. They separate clean from contaminated zones and have universal PPE on steroids. I mean, you can see the gear here. More on how they succeeded compared to where others are failing. And, where's this genius from? Well, why, how come this genius can see it, but all of the other geniuses at the White House can't? Just spoke to a friend in Ohio, according to Craig Spencer, MD. Works at a huge hospital system. Today, given one N95 mask to reuse. And N95 doesn't cut it, by the way. That's not like some kind of, silver bullet or bulletproof vest by any means. The size of the coronavirus is 0.1 microns. And, the N95 mask is somewhere, filters out anything above like 2 microns. So, you're talking about 10, 20 times smaller than the pores
if they are too
of
friendly.
the mask. What the
if
fuck?
They try to win your confidence too quickly, and if they become overly personal. One never knows when the homosexual is about. He may appear normal, and it may be too late when you discover he is mentally ill. So keep with your group, and don't go off alone with strangers. Be careful if they are too friendly. If they try to win your confidence too quickly, and if they become overly personal. One never knows when the homosexual is about. He may appear normal, and it may be too late when you discover he is mentally ill. So keep with your group, and don't go off alone with strangers. Be careful if they are too friendly. If they...
Wow. So that was the 1950s sending you a message through time. Be careful about these libtards. They're mentally ill. And it's just, been like that forever. You can't imagine, like, two men plowing each other. Calling some dude up and be like, what you doing tonight? Oh, sucking cock, are you? Oh, that's cool, man. You want to come over? Yeah, mentally fucking ill is right. But obviously, you can't talk about that. Was that too much for people out there? What's up? We're live right now. It's the end of the world, so who gives a fuck, And the video, look, it's not just the video guy's fault. Like, the Matrix is, like, trying to hack back. And they're trying to make it difficult for us to actually display videos. We're not going to bore you with the details, but... let's see. Our COVID PCR comparison, that's polymerase chain reaction. Comparison is now online, they say. And what does this say? Analytical sensitivity and comparisons. Okay, so this was actually like the reasons why their tests weren't working. And this is a nice, long scientific paper. If you're interested, you can find all of this on our website, stfnreport.com. What is this mystery? In India, it looks like they're... Fucking Hindus. I mean, in India out there, they're chasing down lynching doctors and nurses. You know, it must be some kind of like thing like when they, you know, worship the cow and the monkeys. You know they're going to get wiped out. How many people understand why this is happening? You know, just check out the Old Testament, you know, over and over again. You got the heathens and the sodomites getting wiped out. It's not a surprise. It happens every so often. And, you know, it's wonderful to our eyes. Now we find out that Fox News are freaking out over potential lawsuits from people who lost loved ones after buying into the network's characterization of the virus being a hoax or just like the flu. And how many other, you know, networks, news anchors, television stations were complicit in misleading you, just like on 9/11. You know, they lie and people die, and they get away with it, just like Hillary Clinton. What is this? U.S. senators were briefed on the coronavirus here, sold their stocks, and then it crashed. Yeah. So you see how that works? So they were told, I mean, they were probably told like way, you know, well, probably like way over here somewhere. But nonetheless, they just lied to you the whole time. The scale was in months, not days. Anyways, train engineer arrested after derailing a train near the USS Mercy out there in LA. So the guy, you know, he's like high on rabies because of the virus. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to drive my train into the boat. You know what I mean? And he got like what looks like 2 feet off the tracks, but that was the official story, ladies and gentlemen. So, y'all want the 5G, huh? This video is pretty intense. Let's see if we can... No, we're gonna have to readjust the settings here. Let's see if we can...
It wasn't here, but now they're injecting 5G towers in the end. Okay, cool. That's it. Now we're fucking gonna die.
Yeah, well, this must be in Britain or something. But they're remarking dead birds everywhere ever since the new generation antennas have arrived. And, you know, it was a fairly interesting video, to say the least. We've played our fair share of videos as far as, you know, 5G and its health effects. That's why we strongly recommend that you don't use EMF, especially right now, because it basically kills the white blood cells. And there's decades worth of reports on that. But these new death towers, you know, how they're setting them up in a grid-like pattern all over your city basically turns your entire city into a giant harp antenna. Into a giant, you know, antenna array. And so that makes it, you know, quite different. Seattle police chief says, if someone hurts your feelings, please call 911. I'm sure they don't have enough cases. But I mean, these libtard, you know, people are their own worst enemy. And the worst thing is that they're not only a danger to themselves, but they're a danger to other people, especially other people's children. And that's why, you know, it's important that we don't miss out on this opportunity to finish the job, you know, to exert our majority. Because, you know, the most of the casualties are going to be in the big cities, and the big cities is where the libtards are. So if you do the math, you know, by, you know, the next election, there's probably going to be, quite a few less of them. And it's only going to get worse every year. And then they're going to try and flee their cities and come and invade your town. And that's when you have an opportunity to strike. And I think, people will figure that out for themselves when they see the virus showing up to their town. You have to think of like what it was like during the Black Plague, the Black Death. And, you'd have outsiders from London or, Milwaukee, show up into your town. And people were freaking out, man. Okay, not Milwaukee, but London for sure. They had the plague actually in 1666, believe it or not. And that was the year of the Sabbatean Francus. Anybody know anything about that? Sabbatean Francus? How about Project ZYPHR? Did you hear about that shit? Huh? How about Event 201? How about Crimson Contagion? What kind of contagion? The Crimson Contagion. Like Crimson Mist. Every time they use crimson, there's blood. It's a blood sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen. Over the past 24 hours, the U.S. has reported, nearly 30,000 new cases. But it'd be a lot more than that if they could test more. You're always going to get this bottleneck. It can only go in increments of 30,000 or 50,000 because they're only testing so many people. But if they could test like 1 million people a day, a fucker would be, skyrocketing hundreds of thousands of cases every day. So, and, there's 350 million people in America. 1 in 3 people are like totally off the radar. You show up into their ghetto, you're getting shot. Good luck trying to test people out there. And so, it's only going to get worse before it gets better. How much worse? For years worse. They're already starting to say 2 years. If you look at the book of Daniel, we're probably looking at 3 to 5 years. And history tells you, the Black Death was like 3 years. Took them 3 years to get through it. I think the Spanish flu was something like that as well. So, we could probably expect 3 years of, intense waves for every winter. And next year will be worse for a lot of reasons. But we'll get a full winter of it, and, the people out there in California are going to have the wildfires and all the smoke. So there's going to be a lot more damage come next fall, next winter on the West Coast. We'll see what happens. I mean, we're still holding out for some major action here in the next couple weeks. Right now, their official statistics are suspiciously low, but the reports that we're getting everywhere is that everyone's infected. Now, you may not know that you're infected, which is nice, but there's been plenty of reports where people did not report symptoms, yet when they had the MRIs or the CAT scans, they had the same kind of lung damage as people that were reporting symptoms. So it's really hard to say if there's anybody not infected out there right now. In theory, everyone's infected because that's the kind of bioweapon this is. And, we see, how infectious it is in the equations and the internal reports. And this thing would have cycled through pretty much the entire U.S. population in about 30 days. And it landed sometime in mid-January, if not sooner. So by mid-February, pretty much everybody was infected. By mid-March, for sure everybody was infected. And by now, people are starting to die. And I think the timeline is, a lot different than what they think it is, or what they're admitting to right now. The timeline right now is kind of like you get infected, 3 days later or 7 days later, you have symptoms. Maybe by 2 weeks, you're in the hospital, and maybe you'll last 2 weeks after that. But we think the timeline could be considerably longer. And we talked about yesterday how there's reports of people, 2 months after being infected, they still have a very high virus load. So it doesn't go away, it just keeps working you. And eventually it's kind of like, the glass cracks and, it begins to crumble. So, that's essentially what we're looking at. But knowing at least allows you to be able to address the issue. I guess we didn't talk about this story, but this guy, there's a video here buried in this story, and the guy's like spitting on people. You know, he just can't take it anymore, and like a couple hours later he collapsed on a train. And so, you know, there's going to be a lot of cases where people are like, oh, you know, the virus has gotten them, and they're like, fuck it, you know, we're going to take out as many people as we can. And so be on the lookout for that. You're going to get a lot of super spreaders, a lot of real desperate, angry people that are going to want to share the misery. You know, it's kind of always been like that. You know what I mean? Let's see, what else does the video guy have? Medical martial law. Excellent. U.S. Navy does not rule out punishing the captain who criticized the coronavirus response. So, you know, the orders have come down. Don't talk about the virus. Don't ask, don't tell. It's like, you know, Sodom and Gomorrah. Kind of. Up to 80% infected in certain zip codes. So we got the map here. This is an interactive map where you can actually see every zip code, every little borough, if you will, and see how many people have been infected. And it was really surprising to see, you know, in some of these districts, out of 800 people tested, 600 were positive, you know. And it was like, wow, the majority of people that they're testing are infected. And they're probably, you know, well advanced in their disease. Italy is encountering thousands of deaths caused by the virus, indicating that the pandemic's human toll may be much higher. There was actually quite a few reports today where the numbers are much higher than what even Italy was reporting, and we're getting this from, you know, France and probably the U.S. as well, that they're undercounting dead people on purpose to make it seem like, you know, things are better than what they are. And that was the whole purpose of not rolling out the testing, is so that people's perception is that nothing is amiss. And perception changes, you know, quite a bit. You know, now that they've announced that this virus is airborne, people realize how fucked they are. You know, because they've been running around out there with no mask because the CDC said just wash your hands. You know what I mean? So you start thinking about what these people have actually been saying and doing versus what, you know, the reality is, and it's just like, come on. You know, thankfully, you know, we were there day one trying to tell people, you know, about as much as we could about this virus, much more than what the television had been letting on, and they're still catching up. And, you know, the day that they announced that this is like airborne AIDS that never goes away and will eventually kill like 80% of the people out there, well, that's the day when, you know, all hell breaks loose, right? So they're just going to keep that one away from you forever. But we fully expect, you know, there to be, you know, disruptions in supply chains, some more than others. You know, I think a lot of people are having trouble finding stuff at the grocery stores. Tell us what it's like in your city out there. I know if you're in a small town, or if you're, you know, kind of like in the Midwest right now, you're probably feeling pretty good. But there's a lot of places that are running out of stuff, and we're seeing a lot of news reports where, you know, they're having troubles stocking up. So maintain your supplies out there, and be sure to check out the video description for, you know, herbs and stuff that you can get right now. We highly recommend them, and minerals and vitamins. We recommend the Spirulina and Selenium combo as a natural antiviral, as well as many other things. And again, we just want to say that anything and everything that you breathe in that is not fresh air is likely to irritate your lungs. Anything and everything that has an odor, anything and everything that has a scent, from, you know, your cooking to your laundry to your perfume to your hairspray to your lotion to your soap, it all has the potential to irritate your lungs and advance this disease. And that's what makes, you know, their recommendations of washing your hands so criminal, in fact, when you think about it, because people are washing their hands 20 times a day, right? Breathing that shit in. You know, have you noticed that yet? And then you put on the lotion, right? And the lotion is just like, you know, you're breathing that shit in. And, you know, all day. And this is, you know, it's a huge cause for people going critical, as well as, you know, the bleach and the power cleaning and the stuff is just, it's outrageous. You know, and it's like, look, you might think that they're just telling you, you know, innocent things to protect you. But in fact, no, not at all. They're telling you this on purpose. It looks innocent, but it's not. And that's what really makes it criminal. Dr. Fucky gets Secret Service protection. He's now being targeted. So there you go. For misleading the public. You just couldn't imagine. Ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. More than 200 news crews on board, 200 crew members on board the Ruby Princess are showing coronavirus symptoms. So that's just the crew. And now the Ruby Princess wasn't the Diamond Princess. It was a different princess that showed up in Sydney and infected, you know, basically that city beyond repair. And, you know, the Australians will never forget the Ruby Princess. And it's like, hello, did you not see the Diamond Princess? You know, it was just like a few miles away and a very similar name. Look, you just can't help it. You know, it's like this, you know. Oh, we're doing the temperature check. Oh, you're okay. No, get the fuck out. You're okay. And this guy knew too. She's probably doing a pretty good job. No. You got people that are infected. They know they're infected. They want to come in. They don't even have a mask on. Pentagon is seeking to provide as many as 100,000 body bags, bitches. Wait till the FEMA coffins arrive. The Pentagon has warned the White House about a shortage of ventilators, face masks, hospital beds in 2017. But this administration did nothing. You know, Trump is a German name. Heil Trump. You know what I mean? Heil. Let's see. The military knew years ago. The CIA tried to warn them. Everybody tried to warn them. And, you know, the states knew too. They got their own intelligence services, their own homeland security briefs, their own CDC, their own labs, their own experts, right? So they knew. The Chinese knew, and they're still sending you poisonous antacids. If you see that it's made in China, you know, send it back. Leave it on the shelf, ladies and gentlemen. We'll leave it there for this broadcast. I hope everybody's doing well out there. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Not sure if we're still live, but in case we are, it looks like we might be. Look at that. They didn't cut us off, but they are shadow banning everyone. It's loading. It's taking its time. But much love to everybody out there. And check out our website, stfnreport.com. We update that numerous times per day. And if you're watching this on Facebook, find our ScrewTube channel, Stranger Than Fiction News, or on stfnreport.com. Till the next time, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, you are the resistance.